Hi, welcome to my designer diary. Last week I was talking about adventures and how adventures are kind of the easiest way into sort of creating for RPGs. And since then, things have moved on a little bit. Now I don't know if I mentioned it last week, but Marcus, who's a sort of lifelong friend, was going to be part of the original PPM. He is now writing, and he's writing adventures. Now, just here we go. So this is Marcus's first adventure. It's called The Ruined Keep, and it is built for Worlds Without Number as a starting adventure. Um, so part of the experiment, I said last week I was experimenting with adventures. Worlds Without Number at the moment has, I think it's five adventures available. Three of them are from a failed Kickstarter where they created kind of the minimum viable product, a really basic adventure. And then the intention was they created three parts of a four-part adventure, and they then ran a Kickstarter um, to fund upgrading the three that exist and creating the fourth and final part. The Kickstarter didn't fund, so they look kind of dead in the water. The publisher might be doing something, but there's nothing visible at the moment going on with them. The other adventure I've seen is from Earl of Fife, and they always do really high-end, beautiful-looking adventures, and that's exactly the situation with their uh, uh, World's Without Number adventure. But it there's an awful lot of scope in there for Worlds Without Number, which seems to be a really popular system. Uh, you there's a huge creative space in there to create different kinds of adventures. And Marcus really likes kind of the hex crawl and world building and all that sort of thing. So and he's very old school. So what he's creating is sort of discrete hex maps which can then be sort of linked together if you wanted to create an area, a play area, which will, with every sort of growing, every new release would grow the mapped area of the world. So you can either drop this into a space in your own world. Um, I've forgotten the name of the world's that number. Uh, Setting begins with G, but the name escapes me. Um, but yeah, so you can drop these in wherever you kind of want, or link them together, and you've got your own. It will sort of grow into a sandboxy type area where he's given so many sort of plot links and hooks that players can take and leave. Do whatever they really fancy doing. Now, this one was released on Monday with about 48 hours or less than that. Call it 48 hours in, and it's halfway to copper. So it's obviously selling. It's doing quite nicely. Now I've also been doing some adventures of my own, and the this is what sparked my thoughts on last week's video. Now the Raven was released what say 9 days ago now, and it's on its way to silver. It went through copper in its first week, and it's now on its way to silver. Um, Obviously, it sells faster when it's first released because that's when it's got the homepage exposure and it's got the mailing list, mail outs, and the promotion. But it's now actually ticking over nicely on its own. Now, the thing with this is it is written for 5e, sort of 5e OGL, just using the SRD and creatures and classes and things like that, which is 5e is just a massive thing. There's a huge amount of competition in there, and I expected to sell. 5 or 10 of these just because there's an absolute hose of 5e compatible material, and once you go into the DM's Guild, there's tons of sort of IP rich adventures. But this one is doing quite nicely, and this was the first one, and I have followed up with a second one. And oh, something I said with the Ruined Keep, I don't know if you can see just down there, but with the adventure you get VTT of compatible maps, and these are the GM ones, but there's player ones without all the annotations in the download as well. And the Spectral Belltower does the same. This is the abbey where the kind of the action is going to take place. So we're kind of bringing in a bit of the the virtual tabletop side of it, and the these both the Raven and the Spectral Tower are both horror themed, low level horror themed uh, adventures. So I'm going for, yeah, there's a massive 5e content, but I'm going for this really kind of narrow niche, and I wouldn't expect the same customer to buy consecutive adventures, because no GM is going to want to run a horror game back to back to back unless you were running an entire horror campaign, in which case you would probably be in the Domains of Dread, um, or Ravenloft, and all that sort of stuff. Um, so these are kind of one-offs, or you know if you don't want to start your first level characters, in the tavern, acting as maybe caravan guards or sorting out some giant rats in the basement. It's something different for that, but I wouldn't expect them. I wouldn't expect any kind of GM to want to play them all back to back, because that's not what they're designed for. But this is my sort of attempt to get into adventure writing in a bigger niche. None of this is solo. None of these adventures are solo. They are more about you know, they've grown out of the books I was writing on. Sort of there was the scarier horror. There was the easier mysteries, and I think the next adventure I write will probably be a mystery. So I'm taking the advice I was putting in the books and the GM advice books, and applying them to adventures, so you don't have to improvise your own. They are that is built in to the actual adventure text in the first place. So that's what I'm doing with adventures. So this really, where it was all in theory last week, this is now kind of how the practice is turning up on the page. There is going to be another Worlds Without Number adventure next week. I don't know if there'll be another 5e adventure next week, uh, but there will be one soon. Again, this is not something where I need to follow up. It's not like episodes in an adventure. This is something which I think people will pick and choose them as they go. So yeah, this is my kind of next steps in adventure writing, and I half expect them each one to get bigger and better and more developed than the previous one as I uh, develop my ideas more. Uh, I think the Ruined Keep is 21 pages. The manuscript I've got on my desk is 31 pages, and then there's more art, far more art and maps in it as well. So these are growing as Marcus finds his feet. The Raven was 13 pages. The Spectral Bell Tower is 19. So also that is, these things are growing in content and value. So yeah, it's just really a diary update. There's nothing earth shaking in this. It's just how things are developing from the ideas I was talking about last week. Okay, thank you for watching.